Hi everyone, I wanted to talk today a bit more about astrology, especially if you're quite new to the subject and you're a little bit intrigued about it, but you're not quite sure what it's about or how it can be helpful or useful in any way. It's quite interesting. Just yesterday, I was asked by somebody to consider a question for them, which comes up quite often. And the question was related to the possibility of a project within work and whether it would be a good idea to proceed with it or not. Now, you can do an astrological chart for any kind of question, and it's very interesting because what you do is you hear the question from whoever is asking it, and then you make a chart of the skies at the point of the time when it was asked. And according to the placement of certain planets related to the topic, you can give a very good idea of what guidance you might give. And these questions can relate to all sorts of things. This is called horary astrology, which literally comes from the idea of the hours, which hours you're asking a question about. And so, in astrology, we can really do charts for all kinds of different things. We can do charts for countries. We can do charts for events. So when is the best time to hold an event, for example? And it's very interesting as an astrologer to look back at when certain events have taken place and see what was going on in the sky at that particular location. Of course, it's very location dependent, and see how things were being affected by where the planets are placed. Now, if you come to me for a birth chart, that's looking at the time you were born. And what we do is we take that time and make a calculation according to the place, exactly where you were born, and the time of the day, and the birth day, of course. And then we make a calculation based on that, which produces a diagram basically. And within the Indian system, as well as within the Western system, we create a chart, and the chart is divided into 12 houses, what we call houses, and then the planets are placed in the astrological sign, and depending on where that sign falls in the houses, we can say it has a certain kind of a meaning. And they can become extremely specific, of course, and that's how they're very, very individual. We also have some interesting points. We have the planets in our solar system that we look at, and the main one that we look at first of all is what we call your rising sign. So that means at the point when you are born, whichever constellation was rising in the eastern part of the sky, that leading planet will be your ruling planet in your life. So it's particularly significant and particularly strong. It may be Venus, it may be Jupiter, it may be the Sun, the Moon, it may be Mars or Mercury. It could be any number of these. And then we look at which sign it's placed in, we look at what degree, we look at what house it's in, and all the relationships with the other planets as well. And then the other two most important ones I'll look at are where the Sun is and where the Moon is. And it's very interesting if you maybe know what constellation, what zodiac sign your sun is placed in. You may have no awareness of which house it's in, nevertheless, or what relationship it has with other planets. And how many of you know where your moon is placed as well? So I was talking quite a bit about the moon in my last video. And the moon can tell us an awful lot about ourselves. It tells a great deal about our mentality and emotions, I mentioned before, but also our female biology as women, and our mothers, and possibly foremothers, and how we may behave in a maternal role as well, whether or not we become mothers or not. So the moon is very, very significant and important as well. But the rising sign is the first point that we look at, and knowing your time of birth will help to kind of map all of that out, whether we're using, as I say, the Western tropical system, or whether we're using either the North Indian or the South Indian systems. They're all divided into 12 and 12 houses. It's simply that in the Western tradition, we allow more than one zodiac sign to influence a house, depending on which calculation system we're using, whereas the Indians don't do that. They have one whole sign just controlling one house. So it's very, very interesting to see the difference. And if you haven't had any chart reading for yourself, a shorter birth chart reading might be a very interesting place for you to start, where you can see exactly, I will tell you what your ruling planet is, what house and sign it's in, and how that is designing for you a path through your life, if you like. And then the moon and the sun, would look at those two. And in the longer birth chart readings, I go on to describe them in much more depth and various amounts of depth, where all the other planets in this are placed, the 7 main planets we look at. And then you can always have an extended birth chart reading as well. But it's also very fascinating to come with questions. I know I have a special offer on this month for those short readings that are addressing a particular question that you may have in general about your life, but I'm also shortly going to be offering this other opportunity in orrery astrology, which has nothing to do with your birth chart, and actually you can have it done even if you don't have any birth information at all. You can come to an astrologer with a question about anything in your life, and there will be some guidance and understanding around the outcomes of that question that can be hopefully be very beneficial and positive for you, whether that means you go in that direction or you don't go in that direction. So I will be talking in future videos a bit more about that. In the meantime, if you're interested, please do click on the link below and get in touch with me. And the details of my website are there too, so you can go and have a look at all the different readings that I offer. Thank you very much for listening. Please do like and subscribe and share around if you're interested in these topics. I welcome your feedback as well, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the comments section. If you have questions about what you might like to hear about in astrology, I'll be talking quite a lot about this, as well as some of the other subject areas that I mentioned. Thanks very much for listening.